recipe for soup. It's a vegetable soup, and you can chop and change the vegetables with what you have in your fridge or your cupboards. Let me show you what you need. So for this recipe, I'm going to use some bacon, but you don't have to put the bacon in if you don't want to. A couple of onions, a couple of carrots, some garlic, some celery, some cabbage. Then I've also got some tinned tomatoes, and I found in the cupboard some butter beans and cannellini beans. I'm going to pop those in as well. And you can add some pasta in as well if you want to make it into a minestrone. So let me show you the steps to take. First thing you can do is put a big pan on with a bit of oil, and we're going to fry the bacon off. If you don't want to use bacon, then that's absolutely fine. You can skip this step and go on to the next thing. The bacon just gives it a nice flavour. So I'm just going to chop that into chunks. Pop my pan on and pop it in. So while my bacon's cooking in the pan, I'm going to put some carrots in. I'm going to put the carrots in next because they're the vegetable that's the hardest, or will take the longest to cook. So I'm just going to cut them into biggish chunks. Like so. And once the bacon's cooked, I will pop the carrots in to cook off as well. So you can see the bacon has gone nice and brown around the edges. That's caramelisation. So we're going to put the carrots in now and cook those off as well for a little bit while I chop up the next thing. Okay, next I'm going to put a couple of garlic cloves in, and I'm just going to roughly chop them. They don't have to be finely chopped or diced or anything. Just roughly chop those, put those in. Along with a couple of onions. I've got 2 onions here, and again you can just roughly chop those. And I'm going to put a couple of celery sticks in as well. I'll just finish these onions. But like I said, you can chop and change with whatever vegetables you have at home. You don't have to put the same things in that I'm putting in. And I'm just chopping them up fairly roughly. And I'll pop those in too. So pop all that in and give it a good stir. Make sure it sort of cooks down for a little bit. It looks like I've been crying. Those onions I just chopped are really, really strong. Okay, next I've got some cabbage. Now I'm going to take out the middle bits of the cabbage because they are normally quite tough, but I'm not going to throw them away. I'm actually going to use them in my soup. So I'm just going to take them out like so, and then I'm going to chop those up and use them in the veggie bit that I'm just making. So I'm just going to chop these up finely, so this way you don't waste anything, and they'll cook down nicely and they'll be nice and soft when you're eating it. And I'm going to pop that in as well. Okay, so you can see it's cooked down really nicely, and I'm just going to add a couple of stock cubes. You can add chicken stock cubes or vegetable stock cubes, whatever you've got. Just grate those up. If you haven't got any stock cubes, you could use liquid stock, but you just wouldn't add some liquid up at the end like I'm going to. And then I'm going to go in with some tomatoes, and I'm going to fill the can up with water and pop that in as well. So I've filled the can up with water, and I'm just going to pour that in as well and give that a mix. And to that I'm going to add some cannellini beans. I'm not going to drain them or anything, I'm just going to pop them all in. And I've got some butter beans as well here, so I'm going to pop those in as well. But you can put in whatever beans you might have. whatever you've got in your cupboards at home. Give that a stir and just leave that for a few more minutes. While that's cooking, we can get the cabbage ready. So the cabbage that I took the stalks out of before, I'm just going to roll it up and then chop it. And then that will go in the soup as well. So we do that to all the cabbage, or you could use kale if you wanted to, or you could use dark green cabbage, like Savoy cabbage, or this white cabbage that I'm using. Anything really leafy would be great. And you put it into big chunks like that. Just roll it up, and then you can add that to your delicious soup. Okay, so I've got my cabbage in, and I'm going to leave this now cooking on a low heat for about 10 to 15 minutes, just to make sure that all the veggies are nicely cooked. So this is where, if you wanted, you could add some pasta to your mixture, and then cook it for a further 10 minutes. I'm just going to add a bit more water to mine now. I've got about a pint of water, which is almost a litre of water. I'm just going to add that. If you used liquid stock, then you obviously wouldn't have to do that. And that should now start thickening up a bit, especially if you've put the pasta in. I'm just going to season my soup now with a bit of salt and pepper, and then leave that for a few more moments just to make sure it's cooked. And that is your soup pretty much done. So I think my soup's ready to try. Perfect with the bread we made. So with a nice bit of bread that maybe we made last week, you could use for some lunch, would be fantastic. See you next week. Bye.